Hey guys, it's me, MitchDowns11 here. I'm back with another live stream for you guys today. Today we will be playing Princess Evangile on my gaming PC, and I hope you guys enjoy. I'm gonna get a live chat up and going on my phone and my TV because we will be going full screen in this, and for some reason my game capture thing down here won't capture it. Weird, I know, but so we're just gonna use the backup capture device for this one as well. So I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get right into it. Also, I'm not starting a call. None of my friends are awake right now. So, hmm? What just happened? Oh well. Oh, I think my thing just broke. Oh crap. I'm gonna need a new one now? Are you serious? Everything of mine is breaking, dude. Oh, great. Oh, my phone hold it has like a strong spring in it, and it just broke one of the metal rods that hold the piece together that holds my phone onto it. Ah, crap. That's gone. I hope the other one doesn't break. Oh, jeez. That would be terrible. Come on, TV. There we go. Now I am live on I can now see the live chat on Twitch now. Let's get right into this.
ムーンストーンプリンセスエヴァンジールロードでしょうかロード
You sound like Konomi-chan, Messiah says. Well, it might not be magic, but that's kind of it. We're used to him after all. Chio says. I was thinking about that too. Some things are confusing when they hit you right out of the blue, Messiah says. Like what? Ayaka asks. Let's see. How nice the classrooms here smell? Messiah says. Smell? Ayaka asks. Well, you know, they smell like girls. What the freak? Huh. I guess that's something only the opposite sex would notice, Ayaka says. Would a girl notice too then? Ruko asks. As she spoke, Ruko pressed her nose against my chest. What? Stop that. It's embarrassing, Saya says. I found my face turning red. Perhaps the picture should have included comments about your scent, Ruko says. That would probably bring the opposite of the desired effect, Tammy says. But what do we do? But what do we do? We had even higher hopes than last time, but Chio says. They say that the Buddha forgives 3 times. Uh, Next time we have to succeed, Chio says. Are we doing something else? Messiah asks. Well, we can't just not do anything. We started this because it had to be done after all, Chio says. That is true, Messiah says. The whole group fell silent. She was right that we couldn't afford to fail next time, but no one spoke up. Come in, Risei says. Salutations, Mitsuki says. Salutations, Ritsuko says. Salutations, Konomi says. Well, here you all are, Risei says. Now, don't be so mad. I'm not here to kick you while you're down, Mitsuki says. We are not down yet, Risei says. Well, I guess you don't need it then. You've been scolded by the headmistress and your plan failed, so I thought you might want some comforting, Mitsuki says. Well, offending people of a good conscience is just further proof that it's art, Tammy says. Art? How exactly? Come on. There's nude statues all over the world, Tammy says. I saw it. I saw that filthy expression on of his. He really is a Thatcher serpent. Gosh darn it. Hmm. I must be a really good actor, Messiah says. You are as laid back as ever, Messiah-sama. What do you plan to do now? Ritsuko says. Asks, I mean. Well, that's what we were thinking about just now, Messiah says. Messiah-kun is a little like Jesus, isn't he? What the frick? Ayaka asks. As she spoke, Ayaka-san gestured to the Bible in Ritsuko-chan's hand. He has his disciples, but in the end, it's his destiny to be persecuted by the masses. Ayaka, Ayaka says. Sister, that's blasphemous. To liken him to Jesus, Ritsuko says. What's the harm? There's no Christian here anyway, Ayaka says. Just then, I heard an electronic beeping sound above. A voice came from a speaker in the wall. Teacher, Class 2C, Okanogi Messiah. Class 2C, Okanogi Messiah. Report to the headmistress's office immediately. Huh? Messiah asks. Oh my, what have you done now? Mitsuki asks. I don't think I've done anything, Messiah says. You have a visitor to see you, I repeat, the teacher says on the intercom. A visitor? Who could it be? Masaya asks. I tilted my head and I stood. Risei-san stood up with me. I'll go along. I'm curious, and I'm sure the headmistress might have more to say, Risei says. Sure, Messiah says. With that, we all headed off as a group. Oh my, I thought it was only Risei that was going to join in on this. What's this? The call and announcement was only for Okanogi Messiah-kun, the headmistress says. We happened to be with him at the time, Risei says. The headmistress didn't press the issue. Maybe she didn't want to make a scene in front of the visitor. The visitor, a woman, sat on the sofa. She broke out in a smile when she saw me. Oh, Sasaki-san? Messiah says. It's been so long. Are you doing well? Sasaki says. Yeah, I'm fine. How about you, Sasaki-san? Messiah says. Asks. Or what? I don't know. I heard that you were here at Vincennes, so I decided to come visit. And it's really true, Sasaki says. Yes, there were circumstances, Messiah says. Now then, Sasaki-san, headmistress says. The headmistress spoke up to lead the conversation. I asked the reason for your visit, the headmistress asks. Yes, Sasaki says. While the two women exchanged words, Chiho whispered softly into my ear. Hey, who is this woman? Who exactly is this woman? Chiho asks. She's an acquaintance, I guess, Messiah asks. An acquaintance, huh? Chiho says. She works at my old folks, at an old folks home. Huh? I will be frank. I was hoping that Messiah-kun could come to visit us again. Huh? Ah, excuse me, but what are you talking about? Headmistress asks. Many of the people at our home for the elderly do not have any visitors. They feel very lonely, Sasaki says. About 3 years ago, a few volunteers from Itatsu Auxiliary School came to visit them. Itatsu Auxiliary was the school Chiho and I had attended together. Oh, that's right. I forgot you volunteered for that, Chiho says. Sasaki-san turned back around. That's right. And after that, he decided personally to come visit us once a month, Sasaki says. Wow, really? Chiho asks. Yeah, they seem to like my juggling, Messiah says. Wow, Chiho says. Juggling? Headmistress asks. No, it's nothing that spectacular. I'm just a beginner, Messiah says. It wasn't just that. You got along well and conversed with them. You were very mature as well, Sasaki says. Oh, I don't know about that, Messiah says. Then last year, you suddenly stopped coming. We couldn't get through on your cell phone. Everyone was worried about you, Sasaki says. I'm sorry. There were circumstances, Messiah says. Sasaki-san gave a small nod. Would it be possible now? We really would like you to come by, Sasaki says. I'd love to, but, Messiah says. I glance at the headmistress. Thank you, Sasaki says. Sasaki-san smiled broadly and turned to the headmistress again. I am aware that you forbid your students to leave the school. I was hoping you would relax that rule for this, would you? Sasaki asked. Ah, well, under circumstances like these, I would be loath to refuse you, the headmistress says. Thank you, Sasaki says. Sasaki-san bowed very deeply. Could we take him now? Sasaki asked. Yes, I don't mind. Are you ready? Headmistress says. Yes, Messiah says. Sasaki-san stood up from the sofa. Wait a minute. Could I come with him? What? But you aren't, Headmistress says. As a member of the press, I would be doing the public disservice not to report on a story like this, Tammy says. But I cannot give you permission to leave school grounds on such short notice. He was requested, so he is a different matter, the headmistress says. Okay, sorry about that, guys. But, Tammy says, if I may, Madam Headmistress, Ayaka says. What is it? The headmistress asks. Your words are the words of the... What the heck? Pharisees? Is it possible? What? I don't even know. That you are allowing Masaya-kun to go because you don't view him as an official student? Ayaka asks. The words seemed to enrage the headmistress for some reason. Her face turned scarlet. For a few seconds, she glared into Ayaka-san's her daughter's face, and then she shrugged. Very well, then Tammy, I grant you to, I grant permission to you alone. The others may not go. Headmistress says. Got it. Hey guys, look forward to the article in tomorrow's newspaper, Tammy says. Of course, Risei says. Then let's go, Tammy says. We'll go with you. Just to see you off, of course. We won't set 1 foot out of the gate, Ayaka says. She instantly glared. That really surprised me, though. I never knew he kept going on his own, Chio says. That was at your previous school, wasn't it? It was several. It was several of you at first. Yeah, I remember it. The school asked around, and in the end, about 5 or 6 people went. So he kept going on his own. He never breathed a word about it to me, Chia says. Is it because he is so very kind? It is because he is so very kind, I am sure. It was the same on the day that we first met as well, Risei says. It was just the guardian, but he interposed himself on my behalf, thinking that they meant me harm, Risei says. Yeah, Chio says. He's a real love thy neighbor type, right, Ritsuko? Ayaka asks. Huh? Ritsuko asks. You know, from those Gospels you love so much. Luke, was it? Ayaka says. Do you mean the parable of the Good Samaritan? Ritsuko asks. Yeah, that's the one. A man is attacked by robbers and left by the roadside. His own countrymen pretended not to see him, Ayaka says. But then a pagan Samaritan stops to help him, and in the end, that kind man was his true neighborhood. True neighbor, my bad. Neighbor Neighborliness isn't decided by birth. It's forged by bonds of human interaction. I think I learned that in class somewhere, Ayaka says. Yes, I believe you are correct, sister, Ritsuko says. Wow, we're actually in agreement for once, Ayaka says. That was better than anything we could have planned for. We tried everything we could, Rise says. But I just know that tomorrow's news report will show people the real Messiah-san, Rise says. I can't wait until Monday. Me either, Chio says. Hold on one second. It's doubled, Marika says. But now I know. If this report is true, then Messiah-kun is a true good Samaritan. It includes comments from the people who work at the home, so the article is unlikely to be mistaken, Marika says. And I cannot imagine that it could have been falsified. Perhaps Messiah-kun really is a suitable man to be called our neighbor. This freaking lady. Hello? Marika's grandmother asks. Ah, grandmother. It is I, Marika. What the frick is this greeting? What is it? Your voice is so low, Marika's grandmother says. It regards Messiah-kun once again, Marika says. Again? Have you already forgotten what I told you last time? But he does appear to be a righteous man, Marika says. Determined, Marika read her the contents of the newspaper article. However, that just proves that we need him driven out even more than before. What? She says what too? Listen, at the moment, it is of low concern as to what kind of person that low transfer student is. What? Rika asks. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Yeah, your freaking grandmother's kind of freaking stupid and freaking a hard ass, honestly. What kind of person he was would seem to be of the greatest concern. We must prevent school reform. That is the righteous thing to do, Marika. The righteous thing to do, was it to change or not to change? That was the question she had been struggling with all year. But to hear her grandma say it, the righteous path for Vincent was obvious. But was it really? Listen to me. You must drive that transfer student from the school before it's too late. Use forgery, lies, anything you need. Oh, okay. This is getting way too out of hand, lady. Do you hear me, Marika? Her grandmother says. Yes, Marika says. It's time for you to make your own decision, girl. Like, come on. It was her grandmother who had taught her to do the righteous thing. Her grandmother always acted righteously. She had never once made a mistake. So naturally, her grandmother's words must be righteous in this case as well. But, Marika says, Marika rested her chin in her hand. She just couldn't figure out what to do. She had never doubted her grandma's words before. When she thought about it, she realized that she must be the one in the wrong. After all, her grandmother was always right. She had guided her down the righteous path for so many years. She couldn't turn back now. She couldn't afford to have any doubts. Doubts would obscure the righteous path and cast her down into the black emptiness. She couldn't bear to think of it. Mitsuki, would you come here for a minute? Marika asks. Salutations, Mitsuki says. Whatever is the matter, One-sama? You look rather unhappy, Mitsuki says. I must apologize to you, Mitsuki, Marika says. Huh? Mitsuki asks. I rebuked you before. I told you that you were not to attempt to trap Messiah-kun, Marika says. Ah, yes, Mitsuki says. I was wrong to tell you that, Marika says. Huh? Mitsuki asks. You are correct, Mitsuki, Marika says. It can't be, Mitsuki says. What is the matter? Marika asks. Ah, well, I've been thinking I was in the wrong. You were the one acting righteously, Mitsuki says. One-sama, what is going on? Why all of a sudden? Mitsuki asks. I don't know. I don't know either, Mitsuki. I thought that I knew what was right and what was wrong. I thought that I knew that clearly, Marika says. One-sama, Mitsuki says. Mitsuki, we cannot turn back now, Marika says. Turn back? Mitsuki asks. I have realized that the righteous thing to do is to drive Messiah-kun from our school. Huh? But why? Mitsuki asks. You read the newspaper, didn't you, One-sama? It called him the Good Samaritan, Mitsuki says. Yes, Marika says. Then why? Mitsuki asks. Because anything that steers us towards reform is wrong, Marika says. But isn't that for the students themselves to decide? Mitsuki asks. Do you think that I am in the wrong, Mitsuki? Marika asks. No, no. I am always on your side, One-sama, Mitsuki says. Thank you, Marika says. Well then, why don't we consider consider the matter together? The matter of how to drive him out, Marika says. Yes, Mitsuki says. Come on. I pressed that button like several times.
第9話冒険したいお年頃。
Saturday, oh, Saturday after class, we had lunch together in the dining hall. Masaya-kun's always eating alone, you know? I thought if we all came here together, we wouldn't feel so bad about people watching us, right? Ayaka asks. I guess you still do, huh? Ayaka asks again. I feel like we're even more conspicuous than before, Rise says. Well, nothing to be done about that, I guess. A bunch of celebrities together is bound to draw attention, Tammy says. In addition to the White Lotus Society girls and Tammy-san, Ritsuko-chan and Konomi-chan had also joined us. A table full of beauties like this did make for quite the view. Now, if we had Marika-sama and Mitsuki-san here, it would be an all-star, Tammy says. Speaking of which, is she not coming today? Yes, I intended to invite her, but she was unapproachable, Rise says. Unapproachable? Tammy asks. I thought that we had restored our earlier friendship. I wonder what could have happened, Rise says. Did something happen to Mitsuki-san? Tammy asks. No, at least nothing that I'm aware of, Rise says. She has seemed rather listless since the week began. I have been worried for her as well, Ritsuko says. Since the week began? That was when Masaya-kun's approval took a jump, right? Ayaka asks. But that can't be the reason she's depressed. I don't even know which side of the issue Mitsuki-san is on, Rise says. You mean about school reform? Chio asks. Yes, Rise says. From the way she talks, it seems pretty clear that she's against reform, isn't she? Chio asks. Mitsuki had stated that clearly enough, but Rise-san didn't seem to fully believe it. Your opposition to school reform does that really come from you, Mitsuki-san? What do you mean by that? That is Marika-sama's position, and so that has become your position. Is that not the case? That that is not the case. I remembered them having that exchange. But she was originally supposed to be the leader of the Red Rose Society, wasn't she? Ayaka asks. True as that may be, there was no reality to the question of reform until after that choice was made, Ritsuko says. Ah, after Messiah-kun showed up, that's true, Hayaka says. I don't know about her though. Getting voted society leader is an impressive feat. Why did she give it up so easily? Ayaka asks. Wouldn't that go to show just how badly she wants to stop reform? Tammy asks. But then she would want to fight the battle herself. Mitsuki's original title was an impressive one. What was it again? Ayaka asks. L'armée de Lune. What does that mean? Tear of the Moon. Mikata Mitsuki's former title. A combination of her teardrop beauty mark and her name. Oh, okay. Yeah, that. The teardrop mole of hers was so sexy, Ayaka says. Yes, and now she has become captain of the guard. I feel so alone, Rise says. Yeah, they would have been the sun and the moon, Rise-san and Mitsuki-san together, Messiah says. Well, anyway, the food here sure is good, huh? Messiah asks. I think you ate a bit too much. You ordered both meals, Chiyo says. Because they both look so good. I couldn't choose between them, Messiah says. You're going to get fat. Everything in moderation, Chiyo says. You think I'll get fat? Messiah asks. Well, you look okay right now, Chiyo says. What are you talking about, Chiyo-san? You saw his amazing body just the other day, Tammy says. Well, that's true, Chiyo says. Perhaps he has a fast metabolism, Rise says. I don't know. Arriving at Vince Nest was the first time I've been blessed with food like this, Messiah says. It's nice to see a healthy appetite on a boy, but I won't forgive you if you end up with a flabby old man belly, Ayaka says. Oh my god. I'll be careful, Messiah says. I had a feeling that wasn't going to be the last time I'd be showing it. Is it really so delicious? Ruiko asks. Ruiko-san took a spoonful of and cocked her head. Huh? You don't like the food here, Ruiko-san? Messiah asks. Ah, no, it's not that at all, Ruiko says. I have so little basis for comparison. Comparison? Messiah asks. I have never eaten anywhere else, Ruiko says. Ah, Messiah says. After all, she had lived in the dorm since primary course. Hold on. Just making sure on live chat for Twitch. I'm also taking a drink. I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty today. Oh, that's better. As a pure Feliz de la Vincennes, she probably had very few chances to eat elsewhere. Would you say that food elsewhere is unblessed? Ruko asks. No, I wouldn't say that at all. Those were just my own particular circumstances, Messiah says. I see. I am truly disadvantaged, Ruko says. Ruko-san let out a sigh. I know almost nothing about the outside world, or about men, Ruko says. She turned to look into my eyes. Having you here has taught me a certain amount, but you are surely not a representation of all men, Ruko says. What are you talking about? Rise asks. Nothing, Ruko says. Now that you mention it, Saya says. I remembered that first morning I had met Ruko-san. What was it that she had said to me? I do certain personal circumstances. I would like to learn more about men. I had never learned what those personal circumstances were. But you go back home sometimes, right? Don't you walk around outside then? Ayaka asks. Ah, I cannot walk freely myself, Ruko says. Huh? Why? Ayaka asks. When I leave my house, I must take a bodyguard with me, and I don't like to bother them, Ryoko says. Wow, you're really amazing, Ayaka says. She's the daughter of the Kamiyagi group, after all. There aren't many people like her out there, Tammy says. Rise-san had said that before as well. Even among the girls of Vincennes, Ruko-san was rich. But it's stifling, isn't it? Are you okay with that? Ayaka asks. Yes, Ruko says. Wow, really? That's a really hard story to believe, Ayaka says. After all, you sneak out of school as a matter of course, sister, Ritsuko says. I do not sneak out. I am open and forthright about using my reputation to leave through the main gate, Ayaka says. That's even worse, Ritsuko says. But as of late, I've been thinking I would like to go outside to have an adventure, Ryoko says. Well, summer vacation is coming up, Ritsuko says. That is true. This time perhaps I shall ask them to let me go without a bodyguard, Ryoko says. Wow, you really are eager. Did something happen to cause your change of heart? Ayaka asks. Did it? I cannot say for myself, Ryoko says. Maybe I was a good influence on you without your realizing it, Ayaka says. Or perhaps a bad influence, Ritsuko says. Hey now, it was that adventurer's spirit that made a hero out of Columbus, right? Ayaka asks. With all due respect to Ayaka-sama, the influence was more like Messiah Sans, Rise says. Well, you might be right, Ayaka says. Ayaka-san agreed easily to that. Then she turned to me. You brought a new air into this place. She wants to see where all that came from, Ayaka says. I see. That may be the case, Ruiko says. Wait a minute, everyone. I want to hold a White Lotus Society meeting after lunch. Do you mind? Rise asks. Sure, why not? Ayaka asks. Very well, Ruiko says. Got it, Chiho says. After lunch, we moved to Maria Hall. I was lying about it being a meeting, but I wanted to propose something to Ruiko-san, Rise says. Eh? Ruiko asks. All eyes went wide. What? That's crazy. Hold on. All eyes went wide. Shall we all go on an adventure? Rise asks. Oh, I love it. It's more fun if we all go out together, Ayaka says. Ayaka-san was on board already, but Ruiko-san seemed a bit hesitant. Ruiko says. After that, she went silent. Chiyo spoke in her place. But will it be okay? If a teacher sees us, Chiyo says. I'll make sure that we aren't seen, Rise says. How? Chiyo asks. Have you forgotten? When you left the school the last time, I was the one who manipulated the gate, Rise says. Ah, that's right, Chiyo says. We can set it to lock at certain times, so we can also arrange our return. We'll just have to ensure we aren't late. That's right. Didn't you go out every night during spring vacation to scout for boys? Ayaka asks. Yes, but I did it so often that I was eventually caught, and the guardian chased me down. Oh, so that's what happened. That sounds like quite a story, but you've ended up pretty isolated thanks to that. Did you know that? Ayaka asks. Yes, I have felt it. I have not allowed it to bother me, but Rise says. You really are Célé d'École. You're incredible, Ayaka says. I always wonder why I get active scorn, even though we did the same thing, Ayaka says. But in your case, all that you do is go outside, right? Chiyo asks. Well, that's true, Ayaka says. Ruiko-san, I do think it's a good influence this time around, Rise says. A good influence? Ruiko asks. I don't think the transfer student is just here to be observed, Rise says. He's brought in influences influences we never could have known before, Rise says. Through that, Vincentess itself, rather, all of us changed, and it points us in the direction of reform. That is what I was striving for, Rise says. When you first entered the school, I told you to expand your social circle, didn't I? Rise asks. Yeah, Messiah says. That was, of course, because I wanted you to pass the vote. But it was also because I wanted you to have an influence on others, Rise says. A bit like a bit like good bacteria in a way, Rise says. I see, Messiah says. Well, what do you think, Ruruko-san? Tomorrow is Sunday. Why don't we take a trip? Rise asks. I see, Ruruko says. Ruruko-san thought for a minute, then nodded. Very well, Ruruko says. I knew it. Will you join us, Chiho-san? Rise asks. Of course, Chiho says. Then it's all decided, Rise says. Rise-san clapped her hands together lightly. Well, we'll be conspicuous if we... What the heck? Okay, if we go together. So I should suggest we all go separately and gather at the bus stop. The time is 10 o'clock. But there is a guardian stationed down the side path branching out from it. Will it be alright? Ruko asks. Oh, that? Do you know why it's so far back there? Rise asks. Yes. I never thought of that. Why is it there? Ruko asks. One reason is that they have sensors and a security camera. The other, more important one is scenery, Rise says. Scenery? Ruko says. Oh, I heard about that. Because it would be unsightly to have a building right next to the Detroit Chimin? What the heck is that? The ginkgo-lined path between the school and the gate. It means narrow road. It is not particularly narrow. The name is a reference from the Gospel of Matthew chapter 7. Enter through the narrow gate. Oh, okay. Would it? Ruko asks. Well, I guess it's an atmosphere sort of thing. This school is so picky sometimes, Ayaka says. Anyway, I'll disarm the sensor and I'll program the monitor to not show the path, so we'll be fine, Rise says. Understood, Ruko says. The next day, we gathered at the bus stop at the determined time, and the bus arrived. I'm so excited, Ruko says. Ruko-san placed a hand on her chest, which just emphasized how voluptuous it was. Without exaggeration, this is the first time I have ever been outside of school without a bodyguard's accompaniment. Oh, jeez. Ruko says. That's amazing, Ayaka says. My heart is pounding. Masaya-kun, would you feel it? Ruko asks. Oh, can I? Saya asks. Hey now. You know you can't, Chiho says. Ow, ow, Masaya says. It had been a joke, of course. Masaya-kun, my heart is pounding too. Ayaka says, no, stop. Ayaka, don't you leave school all the time? Masaya asks. You don't have to say it so coldly, Ayaka says. But this bus is always empty. It feels like it's reserved just for us, Chiho says. Chiho swung her legs back and forth. We sat down in the very last row and were the only passengers on the bus. With all of us going out together, it feels a bit like a class hike trip. Really? Chio says. Ah, that's right. Is it okay to have Panterbell here? Messiah asks. Cool? Panterbell asks. Huh? Ruko asks. I mean riding the bus, Messiah says. Is that wrong? Ruko asks. I don't know about animals, I should check, Messiah says. I quickly asked the driver, then came right back. The driver doesn't mind as long as he behaves, Messiah says. I see, but of course Panterbell will behave, Ruko says. Cool, Panterbell says. If you need to, you could always just claim he's a scarf, Chio says. What the heck? Panterbell certainly is warm. He is a great help during winter when we sleep together. Ruko says. Wow, you sleep together? Messiah asks. Yes, it's a bit hot in the summer, but when I hold him to my chest like a pillow, it is terribly reassuring, Ruko says. Wow, her chest. Messiah says. Panterbell, you lucky dog. But I'm glad we all got out safely, Ayaka says. As Risei-san promised, the guardian hadn't shown, and the gate had closed on its own once we departed. It had all gone off without a hitch. But Risei, how do you control the sensor like that? Ayaka asks. Don't tell anyone, Risei says. Risei-san smiled secretively. The truth is, I acquired the headmistress's password, Risei says. Wow, no way. Really? Ayaka asks. Actually, I just guessed it. I thought it has to be this, and so it was, Risei says. Wow, that's amazing, Ayaka says. Necessity is the mother of invention, as they say, and I really needed it if I was going to keep up my scouting, Risei says. I see, Ayaka says. I've been thinking. You really think more about the future of Events Nest than anyone, Risei. Even more than the board of directors, Ayaka says. But Risei-san looked rather troubled by those words. That's right, she had a similar reaction before, Messiah says. It would take 30 minutes for the bus to reach the station. It picked up more passengers on the way. I'm pretty sure that each passenger who got on the bus glanced over at our group. Seeing 4 beautiful girls all lined up together would attract anyone's attention. And seeing just one guy amongst them probably made them wonder what was going on. Hey Ruko, what's wrong? Chio asks. Huh? Ruko asks. Chio looked over at her in concern. You've looked a little stiff this whole time, Chio says. Ah, Ruko says. I had sensed it too. Her back was rigid, and her hands clasped in her lap, and she kept her eyes locked forward. No matter how you slice it, she definitely wasn't relaxed. I am studying them, Ruko says. Studying them? Chio asks. The people on the bus, Ruko says. The rest of us looked at each other in confusion. I would guess. Jeez. There was nothing particularly noteworthy about the people on the bus. Why? Chio asks. Ah, well, I shall explain later, Ruko says. Chio nodded. On an unrelated subject, I can drive a car, Ryuko says. Huh? Chio asks. Ayaka asks. And Risei asks. And Messiah asks as well. We were all shocked by that declaration. Wow, Ryuko-san, you have a license? Chio asks. No, I do not, Ryuko says. Then how can you drive? Chio asks. Ah, well, on our estate, Ryuko says. Ah, Chio says. Driving around your private estate, definitely high society talk. Like, that's kind of surprising, Ryuko. You like cars? Ayaka asks. I do enjoy driving, but my father is the one that loves them. That is why he taught me, Ryuko says. Wow, you must be looking forward to getting your license then, Ayaka says. But my father often tells me to stop doing it, so I may not get my license, Ryuko says. Why does he tell you to stop? Ayaka asks. It is because I appear to become a different person behind the wheel. Oh my god, Ryuko says. Okay. We exchanged a silent glance as to say, that's hard to imagine. He jokes that I have stopped his heart so many times that he will need a cardiology exam. I worry for him, Ryuko says. Oh my gosh. We shared a wry smile. Oh my gosh. That's funny, honestly. There are more buildings here, Ryuko says. Ryuko-san peered out the window. I believe we're almost there, Risei says. It is almost time. My first time setting my feet on the ground. It is truly an epoch-defining event. What? Ryuko says. That's a bit of an exaggeration, Messiah says. But then, maybe it wasn't. If she had only ever traveled with a bodyguard before, a lifestyle like that was beyond my imagination. We arrived at the final station. Since we were at the back of the bus, we let the other passengers disembark first. Well, shall we join them? Risei asks. As we all paid our fee at the machine next to the driver, Ryuko-san froze up. Did you forget your wallet? Chio asks. Well, Ryuko says. It's okay, I'll pay for you, Chio says. Chio quickly covered the fare. Ryuko-san watched her, dumbfounded. What's the matter? Messiah asked. No, well, Chio, thank you, Ryuko says. No problem, Chio says. What? Huh? Ryuko says, Chio says. Okay. I was the last one out. I had just taken out my change when I heard a small cry from the ramp. Look out, Messiah says. Ryuko-san had missed a step and was about to fall. I reached out and quickly to steady her. I am sorry, I failed to pay attention, Ryuko says. Not at all, Messiah says. It's been so long since I last left the school. It feels liberating, Risei says. It really does, Chio says. It was refreshing to see them all in Japanese-style clothing. I rarely saw them outside of their uniforms, after all. You know what? That's a good photo. How do I? It was X. Okay. We're gonna take a screenshot of this, guys, because this is a really good. This would be good for a thumbnail. Hold on. There we go. It added to the feeling that we were leaving Vincennes on a date, despite the odd number of people. Hold on. The other three were totally at ease, but Ruko-san couldn't stop looking around her. You really are nervous, aren't you? Masaya asks. Ah, no, I am not. But because you are here, Masaya-san, Ruko says. Thanks, Masaya says. Masaya-kun, whoa, what the frick, why are you so close? What? Masaya asks. Ayaka-san suddenly grabbed onto me, pressing her large breast against my arm. You'll save me if a stranger tries to grab me again, won't you? Ayaka asks. Yeah, Masaya says. Ah, me too, Rise says. As she spoke, Rise-san grabbed at my free hand. Me too, Chio says. Uh, Chio pressed herself against my back and wrapped her arms around my neck. What the heck is that? That sounds like he's just straight up choking you out, dude. Chio was our big two, Messiah says. How much had she grown in the year we were apart? It's a bit like a Christmas tree, Ruko says. Oh my, what the heck? In what way? Messiah asks. I could feel the angry stares of the people around me. Uh, if you keep this up, I think I'm gonna get in trouble, Messiah says. Oh? Ayaka asks. The Fils de la Vincennes had been raised in an all-girl environment. It wouldn't occur to them that other men could get jealous, except for Jiho. She was in a public school before this, so she understands. I'm pretty sure, but I don't think she really cares that much, personally, in my opinion, guys. Well, let's go for a stroll, Rise says. Sure, Messiah says. Ruko-san, have you ever come to a shopping area with your bodyguards before? Messiah asks. Yes, to buy clothing. Our house is in the foothills, Ruko says. That means you're close to the school, right? Messiah asks. Yes, Ruko says. You're close to home then. That's pretty rare, Ayaka says. Rare? Messiah asks. Vincennes is a boarding school after all. People can be from anywhere, Ayaka says. That's true. I guess we come from surprisingly close by, too, Messiah says. I was speaking to Chiho. Our houses were in the area. Where's your house, Rise-san? Messiah asks. Ah, I am from Tokyo, Rise says. Tokyo, huh? So getting home must be an effort for you, Messiah says. She gave me a troubled smile. I guess it really was an effort. As we walked down the sidewalk, we caught even more glances than we had on the bus. Even guys with girlfriends are leering our way, Messiah says. I hope they wouldn't get in trouble with said girlfriends. Walking around here by yourself is hard, Ayaka says. Ayaka-san poked at my arm. Hard? Does it really cause trouble? Ruko asks. Well, the roots of trouble, I guess you could say, Ayaka says. Huh? Macking? Ayaka says. I don't know what that means. Like a raincoat? Ruko asks. I feel like I had heard that one before. You've never heard of macking? What are we going to do with you? Ayaka asks. I'm not sure I understand the meaning of the term either. What is macking? Rise asks. Oh, well, Rise, didn't you walk around the shopping area a few times after dark? Ayaka asks. Uh, yes, Rise says. Then you probably encountered it. You know, men calling out to you and such? Ayaka asks. Ah, now that you mention it, I was surprised that there were other people trying the same thing that I was, Rise says. The same thing you were? Ayaka asks. Macking is another term for scouting, isn't it? Rise asks. Huh? Ayaka asks. Am I wrong? Rise asks. Totally wrong. They aren't looking for someone because of circumstances like you were, Ayaka says. Ah, I'm surprised to hear that, Rise says. Let's let Masaya-kun explain it. You're good with the ladies after all. You have experience, right? Ayaka asks. No, I couldn't do that. Anyway, macking means, Messiah says. I explained it to them, and they both nodded. I see. That would appear consistent with my experiences, Rise says. It's a bit like an arranged marriage, Ruko says. An arranged marriage? I don't think so. Though, I guess they're after something similar, Messiah says. Do you get macked a lot, Ayaka-san? Messiah asks. Yes, Ayaka says. That fit. She might not have had a title at Vince Ness, but she was beautiful with an impressive physique. She looked like a gravure idol, after all. Anyone would want to hit on her. That's why I'm glad you're here with me today, Masaya-kun. You're like bug repellent, Ayaka says. Huh? Ah, Ruko says. We all turned around at Ruko's sudden gasp. She was looking at Ayaka and with an unusually serious expression. You called him bug repellent. Does that mean that macking is not desirable? Ruko asks. Huh? Yeah. Well, sometimes it's nice if the guy's hot, Ayaka says. That was a joke, actually. It's just a pain brushing them off all the time. I'm not here for that, so it's not pleasant at all, Ayaka says. Did it bother you as well, Rise-san? Ruko asks. I just assumed that they were scouting me, so Rise says. But it's true that when we talked about it this way, it's not much of a good thing, Rise says. I see, Ruko says. Why were you asking about macking? Geo asks. Ah, in truth, there is something about which I wished to consult with you all, Ruko says. Consult? Geo asks. Would you be willing to speak with me about it over lunch? Ruko asks. Naturally, everyone agreed. That's right. She said later on the bus, too, Messiah says. She said that she was saying the poor people on the bus. Could the two things be related? Ruko says. Ruko-san gasps again. This time she was looking at a shop. That man, what is he doing? Ruko asks. What man? Messiah asks. From Ruko's manner, you would think someone was doing something strange, but it didn't. I didn't see anything. You see him, that man there? Ruko says. She tugged at my clothing impatiently. The one putting money into the vending machine, Ruko says. What about him? Messiah asks. He's putting money into the vending machine, Ruko says. Huh? Messiah asks. Oh, that's right. Vending machines at Vince Nest work at the touch of a button, Ayaka says. That's right. They had vending machines in the dining hall, but the drinks were free, just like the food. At first, I was afraid that someone might raid all the drinks inside, but apparently the students at Vince Nest would never do something like that. Ah, well, Ruruko-san, is this the first time you're seeing a normal vending machine? Messiah asks. Yes, Ruruko says. That's incredible, Chio says. Her statement that she knew nothing about the outside world had not been an exaggeration at all. Yeah, what the heck? She is literally living underneath a rock right now. Ruruko-san, most vending machines need money to make them work. Canned drinks cost 120 yen, for instance, Messiah says. Ah, I was unaware of that, Ruruko says. Ruruko-san seemed very impressed. But, what did you do when you went out and you got thirsty, Ruruko-san? Messiah asks. We went to a restaurant, Ruruko says. I see, Messiah says. Now that I thought of it, I couldn't imagine a rich girl drinking from a bottle on the sidewalk. It did not occur to me that you could put money inside a machine. That is why I was so confused by the bus, Ruruko says. Ah, that makes sense. So you didn't really forget your wallet? So you didn't really forget your wallet? Gio asks. No, they do take credit cards, don't they? Ruruko asks. I don't think you can use a credit card on a bus, Chio says. What about the vending machine? Ruruko asks. Nope. I mean, you can now, but back then, yeah, you couldn't friggin' do that. I see. Then I will have to ask my father to let me carry real money, Ruruko says. Living at Vince Nest, you almost never needed real money. Your food bill was covered by tuition, and anything you bought at the store was charged to a tab. The online shopping service that most of the students use ran on credit card, so you didn't need money for that either. That's true. It is a good. It is good to have a bit around. Rise says. As she spoke, Rise-san turned her eyes to a store. There were about 10 customers lined up inside. Naturally, a cart is suitable for buying clothing and accessories, but an adventure requires things like this as well, Rise says. Ah, crepes? Ruko asks. Yes, it would be a pain to pay for you every time, so I'll just give you the money in advance, Chiyo says. Thank you, Chiyo-san, Ryuko says. With that, we go to the end of the line. What a lovely smell, Ryuko says. I never thought the day would come when I would be eating crepes with a girl, Messiah says. It was never something I could have considered until just recently. Crepes didn't give much nutrition. We got close enough to the storefront to read the menu, and the girls began to study it. What should I get today? Ayaka asks. You come here a lot, Ayaka-san? Messiah asks. Yeah, Ayaka says. Her response was a bit distracted. Understandable. There was space set aside to eat, but the tables were all full, so we ate at the counter. Ah, this is my first time eating while standing. It somehow makes me nervous, Ruko says. That's right. You were surprised that I wanted to eat my baguette out there that morning, Messiah says. Yes, Ryoko says. They had all gotten a mountain of toppings as well, which would make eating quite a battle. I will eat now, Ryoko says. Ah. she when she tilted it, the scoop of ice cream at the top fell out. I quickly moved to catch it out of the air. Ah, forgive me. Please take this handkerchief. Nah, save it until after we eat. But what are we going to do with this? Messiah asks. I managed to catch it, but she might not be happy to eat it now. Could you simply place it back inside? Ryuko asks. My hands are clean, but are you sure? Messiah asks. I do not mind, Ryuko says. Here then, Messiah says. I returned the ice cream to the crepe. It wouldn't do to waste it, after all. I thank you. I don't know how I could be so clumsy, Ryuko says. Well, the toppings are really packed in there, after all, Messiah says. Perhaps I was too greedy, Ryuko says. But you really do have excellent reflexes, Messiah-kun. You caught that softball, too. I did? I don't remember that scene. Oh man, I might have to go back into one of my previous streams just to see that. Gosh dang it. And you do juggling? Chio says. Plus you climbed up and down a second floor drain pipe, Ayaka says. Haha, well, that was just doing what I had to do, Messiah says. This time I will be more cautious. Hum, Riko says. How is it? Rise asks. Munch, munch, munch. Ruko is currently eating. I don't know why I did that. Ah, it is delicious. I never knew crepes could be so delicious. I wish that we could have them in school as well, Ryuko says. It sounds like going on an adventure was worthwhile after all, Rise says. Yes, Ryuko says. Probably very enthusiastically too. We decided to have lunch at Papa Torre Moonrock. I hope we'll get to eat today, Chio says. The last time I came here with Chio, the goons caused such a mess that we didn't get our meal. We arrived at the table and placed our orders. Ah, regarding the subject upon which I wish to consult with you all, Ruko says. Oh, right, Chio says. All eyes turn to Ruko. Ah, but first, have you any of you ever been in love before? Ruko asks. I wonder. Love? Chio asks. Hmm. I have, sure, Ayaka says. Ah, really? Rise asks. Yeah, actually, I'm in love right now, Ayaka says. With whom? Rise asks. With the cutie at the table right now, Ayaka says. Oh my gosh. Ah, well, Panterbell is very cute, but Ruka says. Hey now, Ayaka says. We unfortunately had to leave Panterbell outside during our meal. Excuse me, Ayaka-sama, but what are you saying? Rise asks. Ayaka giggles. Were you serious? Chio asks. Maybe, maybe not, Ayaka says. Ayaka winked at me with a graceful laugh. Oh, yeah, we know. We did technically say we did save her from the frickin' goons in a previous episode. That was like 2 episodes ago, I think. So then Chio-san, Rise-san, Messiah-san, Roko asks. We exchanged a glance. You go first, Rise says. Ditto, Chio says. They both looked at me. Oh, man. I don't know. I can't say that I have, I guess, Messiah says. When I was a kid, there were some girls I liked. And I had a crush on Chio, who was my childhood friend. But I wasn't sure if I liked and had a crush on were the same as love. Then the two of you? Ruko asks. I, I, Rise says. I, Chio says. They both shook their heads, then turned their eyes out to the window, blushing. Oh yeah, they can't say it because Messiah's here. So all three of these girls, I'm pretty sure, are in love with Messiah right now. I see. I believe I am the same way, Ryuko says. There is a reason why I've asked you all this question, Ryuko says. On hearing the serious tone of her voice, we all straightened. The truth is, I have an arranged marriage, Ryuko says. Huh? Chio asks. An arranged marriage? You mean like a fiance? Chio asks. That's what it had to be, but it was no surprising that Chio had to confirm. Yes, that is what it is, Ruko says. Hey now, really? You're getting married? Chio asks. Chio stood up at the table. Rise-san and Ayaka-san looked concerned as well. She must be worried. An arranged marriage at her age, Messiah says. And she had hinted at it just now. She wasn't in love with him. That is what my parents have said. However, Ryoko says, your parents. But how do you feel about this? Chio asks. I don't know, Ryoko says. You don't know? Chio asks. No, I believe I do not like it. I do not feel any particular affection towards him, Ryoko says. However, as I mentioned before, I have never been in love, so I thought, Ryoko says. Perhaps I simply do not know what it means to be in love, Ryoko says. Do you feel attracted to him? Rise asks. To the man I am to marry? No, not at all, Ryoko says. Then it simply isn't a question. You are definitely not in love with him, Rise says. Exactly. After all, feelings aren't something you're taught. They're something you feel inside, Chio says. When you feel that way about something, I think it'll well up inside you naturally, Chio says. Naturally? Ryoko says. That's true, although sometimes you don't realize it's love until later, Ayaka says. But if you still feel doubtful even now, then I'm positive that it isn't love. I'm positive that isn't love, Ayaka says. I see, Ryoko says. This has been my concern. My father says that I will come to care for him in time. However, Ryoko says, I believe that I am suffering the opposite effect. The idea of meeting him has become repugnant to me, Ryoko says. I had thought that perhaps I was wrong to feel that way, but, Ryoko says, in our earlier conversation, you mentioned that macking was not desirable. So it stands to reason that my feelings are not unnatural either. Of course they're not, Chio says. Chio placed her hand on Ryoko-san's encouragingly. Have you already met up a bunch of times? Ayaka asks. Yes, we have met once a month since the year began. Although my parents come to the school to pick me up, Ryoko says. Ah, I see. I never even realized, Chio says. This has been my first protracted interaction with a man, Ryoko says. So in order to compare them, I wished to study other men, Ryoko says. Ah, that explains that, Messiah says. Ryoko-san seemed a little slow at a glance, but she was actually very wise. So that's why she wanted a point of comparison. Even on the bus, she was studying men. It was her first time getting out to do it, after all. When I first met you, Messiah-san, that was my intention as well, Ryoko says. So how does he measure up? Ayaka asks. Let me see, Ryoko says. I believe that Messiah-san is far more wonderful, Ryoko says. Ah, well, thanks, Messiah says. Hearing that right to my face certainly made me blush. I wish that Messiah-san could be my fiancé, Ruko says. Eh? Messiah says. Hey now, isn't that where is that where you're going with this, Ruko-san? Chio asks. Chio stood up in shock. Huh? Going with this? Ruko asks. Ruko-san looked at her in confusion. Well, Chio says. Ah, if you are asking me if I wish to marry him, then I do not know the answer. However, Ruko says, I am far more comfortable speaking with him face to face, just as I am with you, Chiho-san, Ruko says. Chio realized that the eyes of everyone in the restaurant were on her, and slowly sat back down. Just then, a waiter came by with our orders. Anyway, shall we eat? Rise asks. We were drinking our small post-meal coffee called cappuccino, apparently, when Rise and spoke up. Now then, regarding our earlier conversation, Rise says. Yes, Ruko asks. It seems to me that you already have your conclusion, Rise says. Have you spoken with your parents about this arranged marriage yet? Rise asks. Yes, with my father. He says that he has searched long and hard for a suitable man for me to marry, Ruko says. And that if I wish to be engaged upon the time of my graduation from Vance Ness, then we must settle the matter settle the matter of my fiancé now, Ruko says. From the way you spoke, you weren't that concerned about the arrangement from the start, right? Rise asked. Yes, that is true. I thought that this was simply what it was like, Ruka says. That is what an arranged marriage is. That this is what love is, Ruka says. It seems the height of arrogance when I look back upon it now. But that was what I truly thought, Ruka says. And that's why it suddenly seemed so painful, Rise says. Rise-san completed Ruko-san's thought. I think I understand how you feel, Rise says. Rise-san looked silently into Ruko-san's face. Then, something in Rise-san's eyes turned to anger. This is all your fault, Rise says. Huh? Who? Messiah asks. You really don't know? You dullard? Ayak says. Ow, Messiah says. She tugged hard on my ear. In other words, it's because she met the sample, Rise says. Rise-san's face relaxed into a smile. That's why the preceding engagement began to feel painful to her, Rise says. Ah, yes, I am certain that you are right, Ruko says. Ruko-san turned her eyes to me. I recall that during our first meeting after Messiah-san transferred, I suddenly felt listless. The entire time I was there, I felt like I wanted to leave, Ruko says. Earlier, she had said that she wished I had been chosen for her, and it seemed like she was actually serious about that. I was starting to feel a little bit awkward about all this. Our special transfer student is having some unexpected effects, Ayaka says. He really is, Chiho says. I mean, no offense to your parents by saying this, so I hope that you will take none, Rise says. But if they want you to get married right at graduation, it sounds like they don't want you to learn what love is. Ah, that is true. I have always wondered why they wished to hurry the matter so much, Ruko says. You know that the first one, the you know that first woman Eve was expelled from Eden when she ate the fruit of the of from the tree of knowledge? Rise asks. But I think that was only supposed to be a sin in the context of the Old Testament, Rise says. What do you mean? Ryuko asks. I went out to find the sample because I think it's important to know things, Rise says. Because the more you know, the easier it is to see where you're going. Don't you think that's a wonderful thing? You are correct, just as I would expect from Soleil de Ecole. You truly are the sun, Ryuko says. You flatter me, Rise says. Anyway, I believe it isn't fun to live your whole life on rails, and marriage is an important part of your life, Rise says. Yes, Ryuko says. I wish that I could tell that to Ritsuko, too, Ayaka says. Huh? Rise asks. Nothing. Well, Ruko, it just sounds like you'll have to turn him down, right? Ayaka asks. Yes, Ruko says. Ruko-san nodded firmly. My father's opinion on the matter had left me uncertain, but I am now determined. I will refuse him firmly, Ryuko says. Good, Ayaka says. I'm so glad, Chiho says. Hey, Rise, it's about time for us to head back, isn't it? Ayaka says. Asks. Ah, let me see. Is it? Rise asks. The gate is set to open at a specific time, right? We don't want to miss that, but Ayaka says, as long as we're here, why don't we teach you more about the outside world? Ayaka asks. Ah, I approve, Rise says. Me too, Chiyo says. Me too, Masaya says. How about you, Ruko? We'll end up getting caught by the teachers, but Ayaka says. I am also in favor of the idea, Ruko says. Sounds great. Personally, I love the arcade. Why don't we go play a few rounds there? Ayaka asks. Huh? Masai asks. I was about to lead them to my usual arcade when... Is there really an arcade that looks like this? Masai asks. This is... Rise says. Come on now, don't hang back. Come in. Let's all try the shovel game, Ayaka says. What the heck? Don't you mean crane? Masai asks. But she ignored my question and prodded everyone into the store. What the What the heck? What? I thought we were going to a freaking arcade. What is this? What the This is a lingerie shop, Messiah says. I thought we could make this an adventure not just for us, but for Messiah-kun too, Ayaka says. Gosh dang it, you! I don't know about this adventure, Messiah says. Come on now, how about this one? Ayaka asks. I really think the clerk wants me to leave, Messiah says. Oh, Ayaka-sama, you sneak, Rise says. But I think he's pretty happy about it, Chio says. I would love for Messiah-san to pick one out for me, Ruruko says. What? He's not picking anything, Chio says. Oh my god. We went to the arcade, karaoke, and a movie. By the time we got back to school, it was already dark out. Naturally, we got chewed out by the headmistress, but we all felt so content that we didn't even mind. What the frick, dude, was that, dude? Ayaka is crazy, dude. It was 2 days later. She'd met with her fiance the night before and reported to us about it the next day at lunch. I turned him down firmly, Ruruko says. I see, Chio says. That's wonderful, Rise says. We all breathed a sigh of relief. But how did it feel? Surely it couldn't have been easy for you, Rise says. Yes, I told him very plainly during our meeting, but it was very hard, Ryuko says. I received a thorough scolding in my entire life. I have never been on the receiving end of such anger, Ruruko says. But I was quite surprised that I was capable of it, given the setting. The setting? Ayaka asks. It was at a restaurant. There were other patrons there too, Ryuko says. Ah, you mean that's the first time you've done something like that in front of people, huh? Ayaka asks. Yes, my father stood up and his face turned crimson with rage, Ryuko says. The other customers were shocked and my mother tried desperately to calm him, but his anger would not be quelled, Ryuko says. To be honest, I was quite frightened by it. If this had been several months ago, such anger might have caused me to take back my words, Ruruko says. No, I am certain that it would have. Even as angry as he was, my father seemed shocked by my stubborn refusal to concede. I listened for some time in silence, but then eventually I stood up defiantly and raised my voice to him, Ruko says. Wow, I can't even imagine it, Chio says. Neither can I, Messiah says. Even I get angry sometimes, but this may have been the first time I have truly felt enraged, Ruko says. It seemed to me that I could not let it stand. If I did, and I blindly accepted the marriage, I would return to the person that I was before. But I really was frightened. Standing my ground to the end required more courage than I could have imagined, Ruko says. But all the while that I was listening to my father's rebuke, I was thinking about our adventure. Ruko-san smiled brightly and looked at each of us in turn. Eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil has made me more discriminating, Ruko says. I believe that true evil is driving yourself into unhappiness. I told him I told my father that I believed he was trying to make me unhappy, Ryuko says. And in that moment, my previously eloquent father began to stutter. And then he fell silent. He was probably shocked into silence by the fact that his own daughter would say that to his face. The man and his family left the restaurant quietly, and we spent the entire car ride home in silence, Ryuko says. At the house, we parted ways with my father, and my mother saw me back to Vincennes. During the trip, my mother assured me that my father did not wish for my unhappiness. On the contrary, it was the opposite. Of course, I knew that as well, Ryuko said. I told her that I just wanted to find happiness for myself, and my mother smiled, Ryuko says. I see. That's nice to hear, Rise says. Yes, Ryuko says. What was the guy like? Ayaka asks. I am told he is the only son of the founder of a large corporation, Ryuko says. Oh, how distinguished. Good face? Ayaka asks. He was very handsome, Ryuko says. Wow, doesn't sound bad to me, Ayaka says. Even so, my feelings are what they are, Ryuko says. Well, that's true. Masaya-kun was broke when he first got scouted, so money isn't everything, Ayaka says. Also, this is just between us, but, Ryuko says. Yeah, Ayaka asks. There was also something rather frightening about it, Ryuko says. Frightening? Ayaka asks. About him, Ryuko says. His face? Ayaka asks. No, it was not his outward appearance, Ryuko says. Ryuko-san pursed her lips, searching for the right words. He seemed like the kind of man who would get very angry when things do not go his way. For instance, Ryuko says, at the restaurant, he ordered the seasonal rainbow trout, but they had run out of stock, and so he was refused, Ryuko says. In that moment, I caught a glance of his expression, and he seemed so very angry, although his actual response was polite. If it had only happened once, it might just be her imagination or just overthinking it. But it sounded like it happened every time they met. If I had married him, I believe that I would have lived my life in fear. That is the one thing that I cannot stand the thought of, Ryuko says. I see. Kindness really is the most important thing in a man, Rise says. In that respect, I would be in good hands with Masaya-san, Ryuko says. Huh? Masaya asks. I hope that someday you will teach me what it means to be in love, Masaya-san, Ryuko says. What the heck? Whoa, 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 what was that? Hold on. Wait, system. Backlog? Backlog. Uh-huh. That's what it is. Okay. I don't know why I double tapped. That was weird. Oh, all three of them are mad now. Great. Thanks, Ryuko. The girl's eyes bored holes in me. After class, there was a general announcement asking Rise-san, Shiho, Ayaka-san and myself to report to the headmistress's office. I wonder what it could be, Chio says. We met up in the hallway. Ruko-san hadn't been called, but she met us there, a concerned expression on her face. This FaceTime has gotta be due to our little adventure, right? Ayaka asks. But we already received our lecture about that, Rise says. Well, we'll find out when we get there, Ayaka says. Ayaka-san spoke breezily, clearly used to this kind of thing. Rise-san and Chiho didn't look very concerned either, but Ruruko-san's expression was tense. I believe I will join you. I have a very bad feeling about this, Ruruko says. You're making too much of it. I'm sure it's nothing serious, Ayaka says. I do hope not, Ruruko says. As if seeing 4 people called at the same time was unprecedented, the students stared at us as we walked down the hallway. I didn't call you Ruruko, headmistress says. But this regards our escape from the school, does it not? Ruruko asks. Didn't you hear me? I didn't call you. Please leave, headmistress says. Ruruko-san left the room reluctantly. It wasn't just the headmistress, but the chairwoman and several other adults, teachers possibly, and there was a heavy air about the room. Now then, headmistress says. The door was closed, and the headmistress turned towards us again. There was not a trace of warmth in her expression. The incident does relate to your excursion last Sunday. No, I am certain of that, headmistress says. That was a strange turn of phrase. This morning, Ruruko's father visited the school, the headmistress says. Ayaka says. Rise as well. Chiho. She ignored our surprise and continued speaking. He appeared quite angry, and when I asked him about the circumstances, the headmistress says, Ruruko's father chose a fiancé for her, and yet she turned the man down, the headmistress says. I can understand why her father was mad, but why did he have to bring it to the school? Messiah asks. At first, he was reluctantly accepted the situation. Then he realized that there was something strange about it, the headmistress says. This is because prior to this episode, Ruruko had never behaved that way towards him. On the contrary, she seemed to approve of the situation, the headmistress says. Why? Then did she suddenly change her mind? The headmistress asks. He was certain that something must have happened at school, and so he came to see us. As he explained the situation to me, that was when it occurred to me. Ruruko's sudden change occurred immediately after she broke the rules to leave school grounds. In other words, you put some ideas into her head while you were gone, didn't you? The headmistress asks. Wait a moment, please, Rise says. What is it? Answer the question, headmistress says. You use the phrase put ideas into her head to mean bad ideas. Isn't that right, Madam Headmistress? Rise asks. Answer the question, Headmistress says. In that case, the answer is none, Madam Headmistress. Because the knowledge that Ruko-san gained out there wasn't bad at all, Rise says. Spare me your sophism. I knew it. So that is what happened. Madam Headmistress, is it right to have to marry someone you don't love? Chio asked. What gives you the right to interfere in another family's affairs? Headmistress asked. As before, the headmistress began to pace back and forth in front of us. You have really done it this time. Her father is. We don't have any. We don't have any right, Chio says. Eh? Headmistress asks. The headmistress hadn't expected an argument and stopped in her tracks. But Ruko-san is our friend. Isn't it natural to be worried about your friends? Chio asks. Huh? Friends? With a final course, Taurus? You should learn your place. What the heck? Headmistress says. Chio's face went pale with anger. I couldn't stay silent after that. Learn your place? That's crossing the line, Messiah says. Be quiet, Headmistress says. No, I won't be quiet, because Ruko-san doesn't care about things like that. I wonder if you would still say that if you knew what her father said to me, the headmistress says. What? Messiah asks. Listen to me. Ruko's father is going to take her out of school, the headmistress says. We all stared at each other in shock. It goes without saying, doesn't it? Vincennes is a school for ladies. For it to turn a girl against her father. Turn against? But that marriage was, Messiah says. I told you to be quiet, the headmistress says. I instinctively shut my mouth under the weight of her threatening glare. And that is not all. Okanogi Messiah, you are... The headmistress narrowed her eyes and fixed me with a piercing gaze. I am what? Messiah asked. Rather than continuing, the headmistress began pacing again. Do you hear me? I do not wish to speak of this to students, but now you leave me no choice, the headmistress says. Mr. Kamiyagi is our biggest supporter. It would not be an exaggeration to say that he is all that is keeping the school afloat monetarily, the headmistress says. She was referring to the deep financial problems that dwell within, beneath Vincennes' refined exterior. I had known about them from the start. I see. The donations that an old private school like this receives must be considerable, Messiah says. And the Kamiyagi family owns a corporation, so their portion must be significant, Messiah says. We must continue to have Mr. Kamiyagi's support in the future, and so, headmistress says, if money is the issue, couldn't you resolve the issue through gender integration? Rise asks. Heh, headmistress says. Risa's obvious suggestion caused the headmistress to let out a snort. I thought it was strange that the usually obedient Ruiko would break the rules and leave the school. It appears to me that she has been influenced by your bad example, the headmistress says. It is not a bad example. It is a good example, Rise says. Are you still insisting on that? The headmistress asks. How is it bad to learn new things? Rise asks. How is it righteous to turn against one's father? The headmistress asks. Ruko wasn't just senselessly rebelling. Marriage is important, so Rise says. Rise, I'm about to bring up a private matter. Let me tell you what kind of person Ruko's fiance is. He is a wonderful man. Yes, I believe he is an unimpeachable match for Ruko. And yet, she stubbornly refused him. What reason could she possibly have for that? The headmistress asks. She didn't love him. Does she need another reason? Ayaka asks. Love is something that blooms in time, headmistress says. That's what they told Ruko-san too, but she just couldn't accept it, Messiah says. What are you saying? Headmistress asks. For one, she actually responded to me. I took that as significant and responded honestly. I'm saying that she didn't feel like she could fall in love with him in time, Messiah says. And why is that, I wonder? The headmistress asks. Why? Because she wasn't attracted to him, I guess, Messiah says. But he was unimpeachable. Why? Why? Then could she not see his appeal? The headmistress asks. Why? Because people's feelings don't work like clockwork, I guess, Messiah says. That is the common wisdom, I suppose. However, this situation is different, the headmistress says. Huh? Messiah asks. Are you still playing dumb with me, Okanogi Messiah? The headmistress asks. I fell into silence, genuinely unsure of what she was talking about. Listen to me. At the sight of her meeting with her fiancé, Ruko said, There is another boy I like right now. The headmistress says. What? Messiah asks. It is unthinkable that any of the ladies at my school, much less an honor student like Ruko, could ever have a boyfriend, the headmistress says. Thus, the person that Ruko was alluding to was you, Okanogi Messiah. If I am wrong, please tell me, the headmistress says. You aren't wrong, Messiah says. I said it plainly. How dare you say it so bluntly? The headmistress asks. Is there a reason I shouldn't? Messiah asks. Yes, there is no reason to be timid. Ruko-san had said it herself. I wish that Messiah-san could be my fiancé. Did you hear that, members of the board? Headmistress asks. Ignoring my question, the headmistress turned back to the adults lined up behind her. So he has seduced Ruko after all, Ruko says. Seduced? Chio asks. If he had not, then she would not have coupled with the liberal liberal Rise, the delinquent Ayaka, and the final course tourist Chiho to break school rules, the headmistress says. Okanogi Messiah is the cause of it all. Can any of you object to that statement? The headmistress asks. It was no one from the board, but a voice beside me that spoke up. I have an objection, a serious objection, Rise says. Be quiet, Rise, headmistress says. No, I will not be quiet, because there is an error in your understanding. Messiah-san hasn't seduced anyone, Rise says. I can close my eyes to such naive sentiments when they remain inside the school. But now, parents are getting involved, the headmistress says. There is nothing I can do about Ruko's feelings in the end. But Rise, to play devil's advocate is a grave sin, the headmistress says. That is only in the Old Testament. I do not believe that it is a bad thing, Rise says. Neither do I, Ayaka says. Me neither, Chio says. Me neither, Messiah says. I'm appalled. Then let me ask you this. What do you think about your classmate being forced to drop out? The headmaster, headmistress says. Well, if we explain things to him, I'm sure he'll understand, Messiah says. You really leave me aghast. You are the root of the evil. What could you possibly explain? The headmistress asks. I keep telling you, this isn't evil, Messiah says. The headmistress waved a hand, ignoring my desperate protest. Well, let's go ahead and save this.
セーブセーブします。ごきげんよう。
Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed the live stream. If you guys did, and you guys are watching from my Twitch, make sure you guys follow me. If you guys are watching from YouTube, make sure you guys put a like, subscribe, ding the